Okay, here is why more and more young women are rejecting feminism and just like do not want to be associated with it at all. Whoever the head of PR is for feminism needs to be fired. They are doing a horrible job because almost all of their representatives who are outspoken, they just seem so miserable, so hateful, so bitter. It doesn't look fun at all. Now, on its face, feminism sounds great, right? Equality for all and girls supporting girls. The second you kind of test that out, you very quickly find that it has just become a total facade. If I'm putting on makeup for my husband to come home from work, or if I'm cooking for him, they get upset. They don't like that. Like, nothing about that sounds appealing. I think that's why we're starting to see the like trad wife stuff on TikTok, is because people are so sick of the other side. Like, so done with the angry, man-hating, like putting women down. Ugh, it's boring, it's old, we're done with it. You don't have to like me, you don't have to like other women on social media. You can call everybody names and be upset, but just don't pretend that you support other women, because you don't. And a lot of people are seeing right through it.
Are traditional conservatives basically what feminists mean by the patriarchy?
That's a hard question, because there are some women that believe in traditional conservatism, and I wouldn't say they're a part of the patriarchy, because patriarchy is men-led.
I wouldn't say traditional, more so the ones nowadays who try to imitate the traditionals from, I'd say, around the 50s.
Traditional conservatives have nothing to do with patriarchy. When women say patriarchy, they say they want like equal pay along with like equal rights, except for they're not willing to do the jobs that pay that kind of money. So it's, can I get on OnlyFans and make $2,000 a day? Probably not. So if it's going to do equal pay, like equal opportunity, then I should get paid like, you know, $2,000 a day for showing people my nipples.
Someone says this is why women in video games have to be and Yep. Wow. Different than guys. When we saw He-Man, we were thinking, or Goku, we didn't think, oh my god, this is making me feel bad. We're thinking, oh my god, we need to start working out. That's the difference.
I feel like some women were just not raised correctly. Like, I went to my friend's house, and she's not gonna be my friend after this video, but honestly, after this, I don't give a fuck. I go to her house, it's dirty as fuck. And then I go to the bathroom, and it's hella dirty. And I come out concerned. I'm like, yo, you good? Like, you need a friend to talk to? Like, are you depressed? Like, what's going on? Like, your house is a fucking mess. And she flat out tells me, it's not my bathroom. Like, it's not my house. Like, the fuck you mean? Like, it's not your bathroom. Don't you live here? Yeah. But I don't pay rent. My boyfriend does. What the fuck does that mean? It's his bathroom. He pays for rent. He could clean it. I'm like, but don't you fucking live here? You live here for free. Like, how do you have the audacity? Where does this audacity come from? That's what I want to know. You live in here for free. The guy is going to fucking work. And you talking about that this is not my fucking bathroom because he's paying rent. And so if it's dirty, he's responsible over it. What the fuck is your use? You are a burden. Flat out told her that. And she don't want to talk to me. So I said, fuck that. I want to be friends with some bullshit ass mentality like that. I honestly don't know where the fuck this mentality comes from, or this audacity. I think social media fucking brainwashed women. That's what I think.
Anyway, so I started to find myself feeling that sense of euphoria you get, you know, when things are really going well with a new girl. You start to feel kind of high on that, and the sexual energy is really good, and you kind of look forward to seeing each other all the time. And she's sending me text messages during the day, and everything seemed really sweet and sort of in line. And I thought, this is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be a great, you know, potentially long-term relationship. Not that I was ever going to get married again or have her move in with me, but certainly it was a nice distraction from my day-to-day life, and it was enjoyable. And So one day I'm on my way to her place, and my instructions are to pick up some food at this local restaurant. But when I get there, they're all out of the thing that we want. Now, I knew that we had something similar at a restaurant near her house a couple weeks earlier, so I call her up on my way over to find out the name of that restaurant. And I can tell she's irritated with me calling her prior to my arrival. She's obviously in a rush. She's trying to get ready, whatever. And she kind of scolds me. She says, John, one of my, what would she call them? Not parameters, boundaries. One of my boundaries is I don't like it when a man calls me just prior to our date because I'm trying to get ready. I'm in a big rush. I always run late and I'm always trying to get myself ready on time. So don't ever call me before, we get together. And I was kind of put off by that just a little bit. It's like the first sort of sign that something was a little bit weird with her, but whatever. So I get the food and I take it back to her place, at which point during dinner I'm getting a lecture from her about her problem getting ready and being on time and how she has like time blindness, which I've never heard of before, but whatever. I assume it could be a real thing. I just go along with it. But I can tell something's kind of weird. And she's giving me this boundary speech about how this is a real boundary. Now, in my mind, boundaries are for like big things, like moral, ethical things, like, huge issues. Not calling before a date seems like a preference more than a boundary, but whatever, just let it go. So fast forward a few weeks and she's at my place and we are going for a walk down through the trails, and she's big into birds. So she's got her binoculars out and she's looking at birds and stuff. And I just pull out my phone and take a picture of her because she's standing with the dogs looking up at these birds, and I thought it was kind of cute. Anyway, she caught out of the corner of her eye that I was taking a picture of her with my phone, and she got irritated, like really irritated, and said, John, one of my boundaries is I don't like having my picture taken without my permission. I'm like, okay, now this is fucking weird. This is really starting to get weird. She takes my phone and deletes the picture of her with my dogs and says, don't ever take a picture of me again. I'm like, all right, whatever. Anyway, I just go about my life, and about a month later, we're at a bar and there's a band playing, and it's such a nice night. We're drinking, we're dancing, there's music, and she's just having a great time. I'm having fun, and I take a picture of the band, and she's in the picture. She was furious with me. I mean, just furious, lost her shit. Like, no, you cannot do that. You just cannot do that. I'm like, all right, sorry, I just forgot. It's just one of those things. I wasn't really thinking that you were in the picture. I was taking a picture of the whole scene. You just happened to be in it, but whatever. Boundary, another crossed the boundary. So I was in trouble, and I started to feel that energy. And once these little disputes occurred, kind of ruined the rest of the night, So there was no, sex, I would be laying in bed and, and having these heart-to-heart conversations about her ex and her ex relationships and just all this crap. One night she's telling me about how her ex was this crazy narcissist and how he was so manipulative and gaslighting and all this stuff. And as I'm listening to her talk about this guy who happens to be the general counsel for a Fortune 50 company. I mean, so he's not a dummy. This is a guy that is extremely successful, and he's paying out the yin-yang for, his ex-wife on alimony, on the ballpark of, significant six-figure numbers. And so I'm starting to put these pieces together, and I'm beginning to wonder if it's really him that had the problem or if it was her, because obviously there's always two sides to a story. Well, it gets better. Here we go. We go to this academic meeting at the Kennedy Center, and they have these things all the time. And all these PhDs and scientists are together, and they're talking about a topic that she has a lot of interest in. And it's kind of interesting to me, but whatever, I'm just going along. It's a fun place to go. The Kennedy Center is always cool to go to. And she wants to have her picture taken now. So I take some pictures of her there, take pictures of us sitting there because this is a big event for her. Some of her favorite authors are speaking at this thing. Oh, by the way, she's very well educated, master's degree, college professor. She's a very intelligent, well-educated woman, well-traveled, comes from a very wealthy family. So a lot of really positive things about her overall. Anyway, so I take a bunch of pictures of her.
So a guy in the comments says, I'm 57, divorced, very happily single. Biannual trips to Pattaya, that does the job. I see what you mean.
So riddle me this. It's 3 a.m. and I'm being tagged in a video that says that women who decenter men are losers.
Hi, Star. I'm Janice. I'm introducing myself because clearly you and I live on opposite sides of the internet, and that's okay. I'm going to try to tell you about all the ways that you are wrong in this video without being disrespectful. Fingers crossed.
What do you mean women who love themselves and put themselves first are losers?
I never said that, actually. I said women who make decenter men content are losers because your content is literally about men. That's what you do on your page, isn't it?
And then the video goes on to say, well, if you can't keep a man, then that's on you. That's a you problem. Why the fuck would I want to keep a man? Why would anybody want to keep a man?
Again, I never said that. You shouldn't have to keep anyone, actually. Relationships should be voluntary. No keeping is necessary.
It's honestly sad and pathetic the amount of times that I get tagged in weird ass videos like that. And then what makes it even worse, the person who was making the video was a woman.
Who better to tell you about women than a woman?
Listen, if you don't love yourself, that's a you problem. But stop trying to come for me and my girls who do, okay? Just because you don't know your worth doesn't mean that you need to be sitting up there calling women who do know their worth losers.
See, women who actually love themselves don't have to profess it online for strangers. You can just see it by the way that I take care of myself. And you waking up at 3 a.m. to make this video doesn't seem like very good self-care.
The only real loser is the one kissing ass to be chosen. The pick-me's. Choose me. Love me. Girl.
Who didn't see that one coming? Okay, I'm actually already picked. In a relationship with a man that I love that loves me. But thank you for being so concerned.
Do men center women? That's the real question. Do men center women? Do men even care about women?
You know you don't need to center someone in your life in order to care about them. I have a lot of men in my life that care about me. I'm sorry that you don't. That sounds sad.
And then the argument is always, well, it's not all men. It's enough men. And the men that it's not, they don't hold the men who it is accountable. So that makes them just as bad.
Finally, we agree on something. Men should hold other men accountable, just like women should hold other women accountable, right?
Men like this put a bad taste in my mouth because these are the type of women who would cross a woman for a man. Y'all gotta watch out for women like this, seriously. Honestly, women who defend men in any way, shape, or form should be embarrassed.
I know I don't say this often, but for my man or my brothers or my uncles or my cousins or my nephew or my pastors, I will slap the shit out of all y'all. Okay? And I mean that. And that is because those men have done everything for me. So I will do everything I can to defend them and men like them from hateful bitches like you. And in case you were wondering, ma'am, in my definition, you are indeed a loser. Sorry you had to wake up at 3 a.m. for little old me. You should go back to bed. You look tired.
And even with getting picked, like, you guys don't understand that there are actually some women out there that actually take the time to do what they're supposed to do, put in the work, ask questions, get all the information that they need to get in order to marry a man. And the man does the same thing. So when they actually do pick each other and they're going through life relatively well, I mean, once again, you're going to have some issues, some ups and downs in a relationship. But y'all want to make it seem like just because you don't know what you're doing, that the people that are in successful, healthy marriages don't know what they're doing. And that has got to be a you problem. That's why you're stressing at 3 a.m. in the morning.
My friend of 4 years just ended our friendship over a man.
I'm going to spare you the details and give you a quick summary of that bullshit ass story. So essentially, the friend established a boundary. She crossed that boundary. While crossing that boundary that the friend established regarding her happy and healthy marriage, she was planting seeds of doubt between her and her husband, saying that her husband is not doing enough, the husband is just doing the bare minimum, when the friend is very happy with what the husband is doing. On top of that, she's pocket watching the friend's husband. So that's a massive red flag in itself too. From a woman's perspective, she wanted her friend's husband. Her video is a perfect example of setting psychological traps, psychological manipulation, as well as subtle psychological warfare that women play on each other in order to attain someone or something that they desire. I've said this time and time again. The emotional manipulation and the gaslighting that women do to each other in order to form bond and closeness, to turn around and stab them and betray them at the deepest level, at the deepest core of a person's psyche and mental. That's a perfect example. We just watched the beginning stages of that. I've said this time and time again. Marketers know this. Advertisers know this. Sellers know this. Business owners whose core customer base are women know this. Women want what other women have. Men will also tell you that a man is more desirable when he is unavailable. The more unavailable a man is, the more he loves on his woman, the more desirable he is to another woman. Said this time and time again. This is also the beginning stages of psychological violence. I love it when women are up in my comment section when they're like, no, men are way more violent than women. No, women are way more violent than men. Men utilize brute force. Women utilize gaslighting, narcissism, psychological manipulation, as well as the physical and emotional isolation that they do in a social setting. The social violence that women inflict on each other is way more damaging, and it cuts deeper to the core than physical violence that men inflict. Oh, let's add on top of that how women will enlist in the brute force violence of men in order to drive a point home. Y'all not ready for the stories of how women will get a chick drunk that she does not like, or will drug a chick only for a male in her close proximity to assault her. The easiest way to sex traffic a young girl or a woman is by utilizing another woman, because women utilize psychology and emotional connection and vulnerability to disarm a woman in order to gain her trust. Women are 10 times more violent than men. On top of utilizing vulnerability and trauma bonding in order to lower a woman's guard, most of the time women will sit there and try to love bomb on another woman to speed up the entire process. It's not the same love bombing in a intimate relationship. There's a platonic version of love bombing. I will end it with this. In order to protect yourself against women like that, you have to establish very hard and firm boundaries. Having standards in regards to what do you deem as someone who's an acquaintance, someone who is a friend, and someone who is in your deep inner circle. A lot of times women will skip the acquaintance stage of a relationship and jump straight into the deep inner circle in such a short amount of time by utilizing trauma, by utilizing some type of emotional vulnerability to disarm you. You have to be very cognizant of that. Set very firm boundaries. The moment you tell a woman no, the moment she crosses a boundary, that is an obvious red flag that she is up to no good. Women are master manipulators and gaslighters. They're very good at it. They do it all the time on social media. You have to keep your head on a swivel and remain very vigilant. But you're going to have to get burned a couple of times to recognize what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, they're very good. Like I said, I can play the game. It's very easy because you learn as a child. You just get better at it as an adult to the point where women don't recognize it when it's done to another woman.
And I think it's also extremely alarming that a woman like this would do all of that, take her husband, and then she would go to the friends group or the friend group or the group chat and lie about it and say, this is what she did to me. Her husband proclaimed his love to me. He did all of these things. He made all of these moves toward me. And, it was God's will. It was God's will. God showed and exposed this woman to be the devil that she is, the Jezebel spirit that she is. Just anything and everything that you need to say. The stars aligned. I went to my therapist, and then that's when the women start talking about their gut feeling and how their gut felt and intestine felt months ago that this was going to be the case. And I always had a bad feeling about her. No, you just ate some bad fajitas that day. You didn't feel anything bad about her. You just happened to be with her when she told you, as a matter of fact, hey, by the way, the fajitas here are not good. Don't eat those. And you ate them anyway, and then you got diarrhea. So that's the bad feeling that you got. And now you're turning on her because she tried to do you a solid and say, get this over here. This is good. My husband and I have been here for weeks. But we go here every week. And so we know what's good and what's not good. But because you and that other woman that's manipulating you don't have any discernment, then and you're jealous and you're envious, then you're going to try to ruin a relationship.
My wife is cheating and our kids are helping her.
What?
Yeah.
The kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are adult children, by the way. They're not little kids. I don't know if we should be more mad at the mom involving the kids or the kids getting involved because they are adults and they know right from wrong. So
the mom.
The mom?
Yeah, to me.
Because she's the cheater?
Oh.
Well, here we go. I'm 50. My wife is 49. We have 2 daughters, aged 26 and 24. So they grown.
Right.
Last week, my wife got a notification on her phone while she was in the shower. I thought it was just our daughter confirming dinner plans. But to my surprise, it was an unsaved number.
Oh, my goodness.
That text, I can't wait to see you, with a kissy emoji.
What? Okay.
My whole world stopped for a few seconds. I clicked to read more of the conversation. Apparently, they have dinner plans and they were telling each other that they missed each other and that seeing each other once a week isn't enough.
Oh my gosh.
29 years of marriage gone down the drain.
Right.
Hoping to catch her in a lie before she left the house, I text both daughters and asked them about girls' dinner. What happened next broke me to my core. Both daughters confirmed the dinner plans and said that they were excited.
Not excited.
I couldn't believe it.
Oh, they going with it. Oh, nah.
I'm not proud of what I did next. I turned on my wife's location and shared it with myself. Then she left. I followed her to the restaurant, and lo and behold, neither daughter was there, but instead, I immediately recognized him. It was her boss.
Oh my goodness.
I was heartbroken. Part of me was hoping that when I arrived, my daughters would be there happy to see me and that I was just being paranoid. But no, just my cheating wife and her superior.
Yep.
I took pictures of them two holding hands and kissing. I know I should have... Wait, let me just say something real quick. Cheating is one thing. Extreme PDA in public knowing you cheating is a whole new level of wild.
True. Just out there.
Out in public.
Yeah.
In the open. PDA with another person. And you married 29 years. What if one of your friends happened to be at the same restaurant? Like, you out in public, like you don't have a whole husband at home of 29 years.
Right.
Now, instead cheating and people be sneaking around hotels, going to people's house, but to do it out in the open where anybody could see you, you're in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Your mutual friends could walk in, anything.
No respect.
Just that is a whole level of wild and audacity. Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's...
So back to the story. I took pictures of them holding hands and kissing. I know I should have waited, but I couldn't help myself. I was so angry. As soon as I got to the car, I opened the family group text and sent all the photos and said, glad you're enjoying girls' dinner.
Right. Yep. Good idea.
I then turned my phone off and drove to my brother's house and asked to stay the night. I woke up the next morning with over 50 texts and 20 voicemails. My wife had all the normal cheater excuses. I didn't even bother listening to her voicemails. I was about to respond with, I want a divorce. Expect papers from a lawyer. But my brother stopped me He told me to meet with a bunch of lawyers first to make sure she couldn't use them. That is a real tactic.
Good.
Because once you consult with the attorney, it creates a conflict of interest. And I realize a lot of people do that with me as well. They've told me I'm here because I wanted to create a conflict because I didn't want my wife to have you as her lawyer. And I'll be like, oh.
No, that's a good tactic. Yeah.
I wouldn't want me as the other side either.
Oh my goodness.
I understand, but yikes.
I feel you.
Just a little tidbit for you guys out there who want to put that plan into motion.
Oh my goodness.
So instead, I just sent the group text a simple message. I'm physically fine, but I need time. I will come home when I'm ready. And then I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I called the best lawyers in town and booked consultations. And I met with all of them and picked the one who looked ready to blow my wife's world up.
So I'm talking about.
That's a lot of money to spend. Consultations are not cheap.
Well, yeah, divorce ain't
At least,
cheap.
right. At least not for good divorce attorneys like myself. To just book with a bunch of people just to create a conflict, he got to be angry because you only going to pick one. But you having consults with all these people, you paying all these consultation fees.
It'd be like
He's
that.
determined.
Yep.
Well, finally, after spending all day with lawyers, I looked through the messages and both of my daughters were apologizing. My younger daughter, the daddy's girl of the two, was manic. She texted me almost 50 times saying she never should have lied and hated it every time.
Now, if you're a daddy's girl,
Then how you doing this?
right,
I would never do that to my daddy.
right, that don't make no sense.
It don't make
you
no
ain't
sense.
no daddy's girl.
Yeah.
You a mama's girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and your mama's.
But you know, y'all should just be out of it. Like, just be out of your parents' marital tryst.
True. Yeah,
try
you
to
should have
stay
been
out of it.
Yeah, in that entanglement to begin with.
But we got to find out how they got involved.
Well, that's true.
It's coming.
But still, okay. I'll wait.
Her boyfriend even reached out to me and asked, please reach out to her, and that he didn't know what was going on, but that she was on the verge of a panic attack.
Okay.
I then texted her back and said, I love you, but please understand that what you've done has hurt me deeply, and I need you to give me space. Within seconds, she responded, okay, I'm sorry. I never should have helped her. I'll never forgive myself. I love you too. When it comes to my other daughter, we have always had a good relationship, but she's definitely closer to her mom. She texted me that she was sorry, but that I shouldn't throw away a good marriage because of one mistake.
Okay.
This made me furious.
Right.
I responded, Alice, this isn't a mistake. This is betrayal from my whole family. Please don't reach out to me until I make first contact. I really hate when people call cheating a mistake. A mistake is buying the wrong coffee creamer. When your wife sends you to the grocery store with a list, a mistake is buying the wrong creamer.
Right.
Falling into someone's bed is not a mistake.
Absolutely.
That's a conscious decision. So let's not do this anymore and call cheating a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a
right.
conscious, intentional decision. Okay? After I sent her that, she never responded, but I know she showed my wife because she started saying things like I shouldn't take it out on the kids. I didn't respond to her either. I'll never talk to her again except through lawyers. This all happened 5 days ago. I'm still at my brother's house and I can't contain my feelings. I cry every morning and most of the day. I go from complete, debilitating sadness and anger all throughout the day. Losing my wife was hard enough, but how do I ever look at my children again? How do I even begin to forgive them? Alice is supposed to get married in the fall. That's the mama's girl. I've been paying for almost everything. Now I'm probably not even going to go. I don't even know how to move forward. I'm completely destroyed.
Wow. Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of got to forgive your kids, though.
Yeah.
They got mixed up in it to me.
Yeah.
But that wife.
I feel like it's probably easier to forgive the kid that's remorseful, not the kid that's saying it's one mistake, don't throw your marriage away. But from a kid's standpoint, I can understand not wanting to see your parents break up, no matter how old you are. You don't want to see your parents split up. So I don't know. This is messy.
Oh, yeah. That wife, she out of there, though.
Yeah, the wife got to go.
1,000%.
The wife, I mean, out in the restaurant, holding hands.
Right.
Kissing.
Yeah.
Smooching. That is crazy work.
Ridiculous.
She don't even care.
Right. Yeah,
like, you're not even ashamed. Like, you just out and about.
Right.
Not even out of town. Like, they didn't even come up with the lie to get out of town together. They hello. Go.
Right around the corner.
Around the corner.
Yeah. No respect at all. Not even for herself, though, to me either. Just like, I don't care what people think about me.
Well, guess what?
What's up?
Say it.
We got an update?
We sure do.
Oh, Lord.
Here's the update.
Head on over to our YouTube channel, Serving Scandalous, and look for the No Accountability episode right here, posted about 8 months ago, and grab your snacks because this update is wild.
The complete debilitating sadness that you're feeling is your entire world crashing down. And the moment that you think you can get up and walk again, that reality hits you over and over again. It's a little bit better is not the word that I'm looking for, but the feeling like somebody that's passed away, you'll get a similar feeling where, you know, you go to walk. That's why you see some people that they're walking, and I'm explaining this right now in a very logical, rational way, a very unemotional way, but it's very serious. If somebody passes away that you actually cared about, you're going to feel it, and it's not going to be pretty. That's why you see people falling all over the place. Some people are dramatic, true enough, but you know, it hurts. It hurts very bad, extremely bad. You just burn. You can't cry enough. It's just, there's no relief for it, right? It's just the finality of everything. Everything that you wanted, that you had, that you were thinking is gone. Like all this person was to you is gone. And so when I say it's a little bit better than death, it is. But I mean to say, you're going through a transition when your world has completely fell apart or fallen apart, and you don't know what to do. You keep on thinking, okay, well maybe when my wife left me, I at least have my kids. You don't have them either. I don't have any support system. So at this point, I can't even really give you any advice, to be honest. Because, you know, as an older man, I'm assuming an older gentleman, you know, you have grown kids, probably older than me. So, I mean, what can I say? What can I do but, you know, try to provide some support and encouraging words? This woman, you know, messed up your life, and the kids went along with her. Somebody in the comments said they picked a side and they picked the wrong one. What do you do, man? They expect a man, and I think of that and that makes me shudder. That gives me chills, because I know the answer. I know what they expect men to do. Stop that crying. Get up. Stop being a bee. Go to the gym. Work out. Continue moving on. This job still got to get done. And a man never really has time to truly process what's happening. He didn't really have a chance to process his feelings, and you just pull the rug out from underneath him. It's like, you know, hitting somebody in the stomach and knocking the wind out of them. That's essentially what you did. You knocked the wind out of them. And then you're saying, focus, get up and keep on walking. Well, I need a moment. You just knocked the wind out of me. You just did something that really, you know, took the wind out of myself. So yeah, man, I can't really even say any words of, I can't even really give you advice, because that's not, you know, yeah, man, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that happened to you, man. Hopefully, you know, you can find, you know, you kind of get recalibrated and find your purpose again. I know it's probably hard to talk about, and yeah, she shouldn't have done that. So yeah, man, just try to do the best that you can. Try to start taking care of yourself. Trying to figure out, you know, who I can hang out with, what my new support group will be, to try to get out of that dark place that you're probably going to be in.
I ruined my ex-boyfriend's life of 20 plus years ago, and I just made sure it stayed ruined. I love a villain arc. When I was in college in the 90s, I met Jake. then male 23, through mutual friends. He'd already graduated and was planning to move to the opposite side of the United States for grad school, and I had already been making plans to move with my friends only 90 minutes away from where he was moving to. We had so much in common, fell in love, and it really seems like fate. Both planning to move 3,000 miles and landing so close together. He had 2 sisters and a younger brother who were all awesome people, and I became instant friends with them as well. Because he was in school and I was working, I would usually go to him to hang out on weekends. He was renting a house with 2 roommates, also in his program. We were young, so money was tight, but we had fun. We went for taco dates, spent a lot of time at his house when he was breeding and selling small animals. Jake was an animal sciences PhD student, so being around animals was normal, and I loved it. I met and became friends with his advisor's wife, Mary, mid-50s, who worked in administration at the university. She is a lovely woman, and I would often have lunch with her when I went over on the weekends. Jake was a teaching assistant, and I had met other people in the program and made friends with them faster than he did. After about 2 years of dating, I was at the house one day, and we were laying in bed together, in a state of some undress, and he said out of the blue,
he was concerned I'd been gaining weight, and it made it harder for him to be attracted to me.
No concern about my health. It was all about him finding me unattractive. I sat up and said, well, then maybe you should make sure there's better food for me to eat than crackers and cheese when I come up on weekends.
But let's, and maybe this story is going somewhere that I don't know where it's going, but you're not there all week. You're there only 2 days out of the week, Saturday and Sunday. So I don't think cheese and crackers, unless you're eating a crap load of them, is really what your problem is. And let's be honest, even if he told you about this at any other time, you wouldn't have wanted to hear it then. Number 2, number 3, even if he would have said, I'm really concerned about your health, and it seems like, you know, there's something else going on. I noticed you gaining weight. Is there anything that's happening that you want to talk about? You would have talked about all of that. You'd have had a 3 to 4 hour conversation one day and then come back the next day and had a 3 to 4 hour conversation. But nothing else would have changed. You just had a conversation about your feelings and all that other stuff, and you would have still gained weight. You'd have continued to gain weight. And basically, it would have just been an excuse finding mission. And I hate to say excuse because there's certain things that, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense why you gained weight or an issue going on in your life, right? But basically, you wanted to be heard. You wanted to be validated. And then you actually, honestly and truly, you didn't want him to say anything about it is really what the issue is. But, you know, maybe there's more to the story.
Ooh, yeah, that'll do it. Even at 23, I didn't take that kind of BS. I'd gained maybe 10 pounds since meeting him 2 years earlier and still wore the same size clothes, about a US size 6 to 8. I wasn't going to engage in a fight about it after all. It was his problem, not mine, so I asked him calmly, so what's your solution to this? He stared at me blankly and said,
well, I guess that you should try to lose weight.
And I said, nah, I'm not going to do that. So what are you going to do about it?
I'm not going to do anything about it. That's not my problem. Actually, it's a you problem. You're trying to put it on me. It's going to be a you problem because you're the one gaining weight. You're the one that's going to be talking to your doctor. Your doctor's going to be like, hey, you probably need to cut back on X, Y, and Z. So aesthetically, it's a problem for me. But health-wise, long-term, it's probably going to be a problem for you. Are you okay? But once again, maybe there's more to the story.
He said,
well, I guess nothing. I wanted to let you know how I feel.
And I said, cool, thank you. Put my clothes back on. Went to sleep and drove home the next day as usual. We keep dating, and 3 months later he called me and said he wanted to break up after close to 3 years. The reason, and I quote,
you don't know enough about science.
He felt like he couldn't have a conversation with me about his work where he didn't have to use common names for animals instead of scientific ones. I said, well, that's bull. What's the real reason? He said it was the real reason. He came to see me a month later to return something of mine, and I confronted him, demanding the real reason. He finally admitted that he'd been seeing one of his undergrad students. Let's call her Meg, a 19-year-old. He was 26 then and her teacher. I screamed at him to leave. My roommate threatened to throw him off our second floor balcony if he didn't go, and he left. It hit me all at once after he walked out, and I went from rage to stunned laughter. I met Meg a few times, and at one point she was at his house for a barbecue. And
so he told you I'm 23. I'm 23. And I don't deal with that BS. I don't deal with that.
I spilled something all over her pants. Jake asked me if I could loan her some sweats. I couldn't because I was a size 8 and she was a size 18. Nothing wrong with that at all, but the point is, I realized he made those comments about my weight to try and get me to break up with him because he was a coward. Anyways, I emailed his roommates. It was the early 2000s. It's how you communicated anything you didn't want to say on the phone. I wanted to let them know we'd broken up, and they were always lovely to me and thanked them for being friends. They both admitted they knew about Meg and were the ones to demand that Jake tell me or they would. That's when he broke up with me with the lame, you don't understand science excuse. One of his roommates, a super nice cute guy named George, offered to help me get a few things still at their house that he had collected for me. He suggested I come up for the weekend, we go out and drink and have a good time. All the things Jake didn't want to waste money on. And I said sure. Oh, we like George. So I went up and George let me into the house while Jake was gone. I took photos of all his animals because while I might not be a PhD student, I paid attention and knew he had an endangered species in his care. Oh. He wasn't breeding it. It was an unreleasable animal he'd taken in from a rescue organization. Interesting. There was paperwork he had to submit with a $25 fee and he refused to do it, saying he didn't want the government in his business. The government! I took photos of that animal, all his breeding conditions, and took a photo of an animal not allowed in the state, which was in a tank, right next to a window and visible from outside. I went up and George let me into the house while Jake was gone. I took photos of all his animals because while I might not be a PhD student, I paid attention and knew he had an endangered species in his care. Oh. He wasn't breeding it. It was an unreleasable animal he'd taken in from a rescue organization. There was paperwork he had to submit with a $25 fee and he refused to do it, saying he didn't want the government in his business. I took photos of that animal, all his breeding conditions, and took a photo of an animal not allowed in the state, which was in a tank, right next to a window and visible from outside. I then went out for a night on the town with George. We stumbled in early around midnight so Jake and Meg, who were watching TV, would see me in a short dress, drunk, and George practically carrying me. I spent the night in George's room. He was a total gentleman, but he made sure to leave the room and parade past them in his boxers a few times and moan loudly so they could hear us. When I went to leave the next morning, Jake said I didn't have to act like a in front of him as I ate a donut slowly in my rumpled dress with messy hair, while George beamed at me and then planted a kiss on my head. Meg looked ashamed, not quite knowing where to look, and I said, have fun with my leftovers, and walked out. I wanted to think the petty, loud hookup and a few juvenile insults was my revenge. It was not. The next day, I had my photos developed. The good old days. And called the state office Fish and Wildlife. I reported the animals in the house, the potential overcrowding of breeding animals, and the 2 animals he shouldn't legally have at all in the state, and asked them how to make a report. Turns out, Jake wasn't well liked by his peers in his program or by his roommates, but I was. George had suggested that he and their other roommate could submit complaints to the university, that a TA was sleeping with one of his students and showing her favoritism. The night we were out at the bars, we made sure to tell the story to anyone who they knew. They made sure all women in his classes knew he was with Meg. It wasn't a large program, so people knew fast he had cheated and is now dating his student. George and the other roommate made sure people knew they had put in complaints, sick of Jake's entitled BS. With my full statement made and photos sent to the state wildlife officials, I called my friend Mary, Jake's advisor's wife. She knew about the breakup and lame reason, and I let her know he admitted that he was gooing with a student. I'd been emailing with him and he admitted to it in writing, so I sent that to Mary. To say she was not happy about that was an understatement. She said she made sure it would be investigated and told her husband, Jake's direct advisor, while I was on the phone with her. Speaking of investigations, a few weeks later, George called me, giddy, to say the Fish and Wildlife officials were there confiscating animals. He told them he would be happy to tell them whatever they needed to know. Meg was there when it happened and told the officials as far as she knew, all the animals belonged to her boyfriend Jake, and they were all legal. That put George and the other roommate in the clear. One animal was kept in the backyard, so it was implied to Jake that a neighbor reported it. While they were there to investigate, they knew to look in the back window to see the far more problematic, illegal to have in the state under any circumstances animal. Since George was on the lease, he was able to let them in to investigate the house. The animals were all in communal areas and the officers stayed there for a few hours and returned with a warrant to take all the animals and enter Jake's room to investigate. George and the other roommate let them into their rooms with no issues and were quickly cleared. Meg apparently couldn't get a hold of Jake and eventually drove to the university to find him. Remember, no cell phones yet. It was a good day. The only animals they left were some guppies in a fish tank. Now, PhD students need grant money to do research and a large part of animal studies funding comes from the federal government. Jake had just gotten an EPA grant right around the time when we broke up. So I called the EPA and asked how I would report that person with a federal grant was being investigated for illegally harboring endangered animals. Long story short, he lost his grant and had to make restitution on what had already been used, which was close to $30,000. He would never be able to get another federal grant. He avoided jail time on the state charges since all the animals were in good health, but lost all his breeding animals, worth thousands of dollars, since they were collected for safekeeping during the investigation when the 2 illegal animals were taken. In the end, he owed a $15,000 fine and the 2 animals went to a nearby nature center. For years, I would stop by in the area to visit them. I went up and George let me into the house while Jake was gone. I took photos of all his animals because while I might not be a PhD student, I paid attention and knew he had an endangered species in his care. Oh. He wasn't breeding it. It was an unreleasable animal he'd taken in from a rescue organization. There was paperwork he had to submit with a $25 fee, and he refused to do it, saying he didn't want the government in his business. I took photos of that animal, all his breeding conditions, and took a photo of an animal not allowed in the state, which was in a tank, right next to a window and visible from outside. I then went out for a night on the town with George. We stumbled in early around midnight so Jake and Meg, who were watching TV, would see me in a short dress, drunk, and George practically carrying me. I spent the night in George's room. He was a total gentleman, but he made sure to leave the room and parade past them in his boxers a few times and moan loudly so they could hear us. When I went to leave the next morning, Jake said I didn't have to act like a in front of him as I ate a donut slowly in my rumpled dress with messy hair, while George beamed at me and then planted a kiss on my head. Meg looked ashamed, not quite knowing where to look, and I said, have fun with my leftovers, and walked out. I wanted to think the petty, loud hookup and a few juvenile insults was my revenge. It was not. The next day, I had my photos developed, the good old days, and called the state office Fish and Wildlife. I reported the animals in the house, the potential overcrowding of breeding animals, and the 2 animals he shouldn't legally have at all in the state, and asked them how to make a report. Turns out, Jake wasn't well liked by his peers in his program or by his roommates, but I was. George had suggested that he and their other roommate could submit complaints to the university, that a TA was sleeping with one of his students and showing her favoritism. The night we were out at the bars, we made sure to tell the story to anyone who they knew. They made sure all women in his classes knew he was with Meg. It wasn't a large program, so people knew fast he had cheated and is now dating his student. George and the other roommate made sure people knew they had put in complaints sick of Jake's entitled BS. With my full statement made and photos sent to the state wildlife officials, I called my friend Mary, Jake's advisor's wife. She knew about the breakup and lame reason, and I let her know he admitted that he was doing with a student. I'd been emailing with him and he admitted to it in writing, so I sent that to Mary. To say she was not happy about that was an understatement. She said she made sure it would be investigated and told her husband, Jake's direct advisor, while I was on the phone with her. Speaking of investigations, a few weeks later, George called me, giddy, to say the Fish and Wildlife officials were there confiscating animals. He told them he would be happy to tell them whatever they needed to know. Meg was there when it happened and told the officials as far as she knew, all the animals belonged to her boyfriend Jake, and they were all legal. That put George and the other roommate in the clear. One animal was kept in the backyard, so it was implied to Jake that a neighbor reported it. While they were there to investigate, they knew to look in the back window to see the far more problematic, illegal to have in the state under any circumstances animal. Since George was on the lease, he was able to let them in to investigate the house. The animals were all in communal areas and the officers stayed there for a few hours and returned with a warrant to take all the animals and enter Jake's room to investigate. George and the other roommate let them into their rooms with no issues and were quickly cleared. Meg apparently couldn't get a hold of Jake and eventually drove to the university to find him. Remember, no cell phones yet. It was a good day. The only animals they left were some guppies in a fish tank. Now, PhD students need grant money to do research and a large part of animal studies funding comes from the federal government. Jake had just gotten an EPA grant right around the time when we broke up. So I called the EPA and asked how I would report that person with a federal grant was being investigated for illegally harboring endangered animals. Long story short, he lost his grant and had to make a restitution on what had already been used, which was close to $30,000. He would never be able to get another federal grant. He avoided jail time on the state charges since all the animals were in good health, but lost all his breeding animals, worth thousands of dollars, since they were collected for safekeeping during the investigation when the 2 illegal animals were taken. In the end, he owed a $15,000 fine and the 2 animals went to a nearby nature center. For years, I would stop by in the area to visit them. The university revoked his scholarship and fired him for having an inappropriate relationship with a student. He somehow escaped being expelled, but it always shocked me that he never tried to hide the relationship with Meg and was so stupidly self-assured he didn't even wait the 4 weeks until she would have been done with his class to start publicly dating her. By the university rules, he would have been in the clear to date her, not being her teacher anymore, and she would just have to avoid any classes he was a TA in. It never fails to make me laugh. After a few months, I emailed his sisters and said I missed them because Jake broke up with me after trying to call me fat and cheating on me, and I felt weird contacting them. The girls told me he told the family I broke up with him because of the distance. I forwarded the emails that Jake wrote after the breakup, talking about how he fell for Meg and he was sorry, but it was true. I couldn't keep up with him academically and it made him attracted to Meg. Jake managed to convince his dad to pay for 1 more year of school so he could get a master's instead of a PhD. And while I stayed in contact with his sisters and brother via email and then social media, I largely let it all go. I got even, made some friends, Mary became like an auntie to me, and I went on with life. I went on to get a master's degree myself, and my specialty? Helping scientists and doctors communicate their work to lay people. You know, us dummies who can't remember all the scientific names. I swear, it happened by accident, not design, but I love it. And I work with everyone from small town doctors and nurses to pharmaceutical companies to museums to state and federal governments and film and TV producers. I travel a lot and speak and get to learn a lot of cool things about our planet and how things work. I knew through his siblings that Jake and Meg got married and had 2 kids. Meg dropped out of the sciences and became an accountant. Jake went back to breeding animals. Every once in a while, his sisters or brother would tell me something over lunch or via text. We had our own relationship that exists outside of him. Apparently, when I sent a wedding gift for one of his sisters, he loudly complained at a co-ed bridal shower that all his siblings still were my friend and didn't make an effort to embrace his now wife, Meg. Apparently, the sister just laughed and said, I don't make a habit to be friends with homewreckers. This is how Jake's parents found out how their relationship started and ours ended 10 years after we broke up. Jake never found out I was behind reporting him to the state, and in the end, I didn't lie about a single thing, except maybe exaggerating a drunken makeout session with George, who's now a successful and tenured professor with a lovely wife and daughters. Fast forward about 20 years to a few weeks ago. I was at a university giving a lecture to a room of 250 undergrad and grad students. In the end, I was mingling with the students afterward, and I heard a voice say,
Hey, OP, long time no see.
And I realized, it's Jake. I didn't change the expression on my face at all. I was completely shocked and my instinct was to play dumb. So I said, I'm sorry, help me out. Have we met at another workshop or lecture? He looked incredulous and said to me, and I said, I can't place you, but I would love to figure it out. Finally, I gasped and I said, oh my goodness, Jake. I guess I blocked you out and said, well, lovely to see you, and moved on quickly when he tried to reach out and hug me. I was happy to leave it there, with the satisfaction of him seeing me as a guest lecturer in a science department of a major university when he was just in the audience. The department chair and faculty who invited me to speak took me out to dinner while there, and one of them said, so, you know Jake? I said I did from over 20 years ago, being vague about how. She went on to tell me he'd been there for an interview for a teaching position and had spent a few days there observing, and they were likely going to hire him. I couldn't control it. I scoffed. When they all looked at me and said, I'm sorry, I'm just shocked he's teaching after what happened at the university. They said, what happened? And I said, well, he was with a 19-year-old student when he was 26, and he had to leave the program without a PhD because he couldn't afford to stay after losing his scholarship. The three people I was with all looked at each other like they knew they had a problem and said, wow, we'll have to look into that. And then they changed the subject. My old friend Mary, retired a year or two now, but still friendly with her old colleagues, called me this weekend to say a friend at the university let her know someone had called doing a background check about Jake, and they pulled his file, which included being fired, leaving the program with a lower degree, and the complaint letters from over 20 years ago about his conduct. Mary's name had been on it with her husband listed as the faculty advisor, so she thought she'd like to know. As a bonus, it had a copy of his arrest record for illegal animals. I guess his dad had paid for a decent lawyer to get the record expunged after the charges were reduced, and he paid the fine so it doesn't show up on a standard background check. I don't think he's going to get that job. So I will return to my life, content that the universe comes through sometimes, especially if you give it a nice nudge every now and again. The best revenge is when you don't do anything wrong. You just have to help direct knowledge to the right place. If there's anything I can impart to any young woman and man reading this, as I shimmy happily into my now size 10 pants, it's that if someone who's supposed to love you complains about your weight or looks, that's their problem to fix mentally, not yours. And maybe it's time to check out what they're doing behind your back or simply move on. Remember though, it's their flaw, not yours. If Jake hadn't been a coward and tried to make me break up with him and just ended things with me the mature way, I might not have found out about Meg and turned his own wickedness back on himself.
So I'm reading some of these comments here. One lady says, oh, she was hurt more than she let on. Not saying what he did was right, but the energy to continue to ruin him is a lot. Somebody else says she's got issues. He's got kids to look after. People make mistakes. She should have moved on the first time and moved on from his family. Somebody else says, my stomach twisted hearing how satisfied OP is, ruining the man's life in an endless revenge. We only live once. Just once. So other people are saying she's not got over him 20 years ago. There's women in the comments said 20 years ago. Really? You're the jerk. Another woman says you're still not over him. Yeah, man, this is foolishness. And you can hear it from the first. I thought I was going to be like, oh yeah, this guy, just based on the comments on part one. Oh yeah, this guy's a jerk. He's a loser. He's this, and this. And within the first, I'd say minute or so, you're looking and you're kind of like, what? What are you talking about right now? So all of this, I didn't know it was going to go this far, but all of this is because he said, you're gaining a few pounds. Maybe you should think about not doing that. And all of a sudden, because he said you're gaining a few pounds and I'm not really, like, my attraction for you is growing less and less, you decided, okay, because of that, I'm going to go get your animals that you shouldn't have reported. Okay, all I did was really tell the truth, coping mechanism. Oh, you were messing around with a student and you shouldn't have been. I got it. Good on you. He shouldn't have been doing that, right? But he got fired for that, I think. He got his funding pulled. He got a whole bunch of stuff that happened to him. And even now, well, I guess his dad got his record expunged. I guess he paid some fancy lawyer. Whatever he did, he decided to move. Oh, and by the way, he found Meg, and actually, oh, well, he cheated on me. She's a homewrecker. Maybe so. But maybe you didn't fix anything when he gave you the opportunity to fix it. It was only years later. Now, he should have said, hey, I'm not really attracted to you like that. And instead of going and messing around with Meg, he should have just said, clean break, like you said. Hey, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. I know I'm going to be the jerk. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. He should have done that. Clean break. Hey, Meg, let's get together. They're married. They have kids, as far as we know of to this day. It sounds like you don't have any family. You don't have any kids. That little fling that you and George went through was just that. Because George went on and he got a family. So what are you doing? oh, well, I'm still around the place and I'm doing talks and all of those things and I'm still in contact with his family. Why? After 20 years, why? What are you still talking to them about? For what? Leave them people alone. That man has a whole nother family. Are you okay? But yeah, oh yeah, she's petty, this. No, man, that's weird work. That's weird work, and you know that. You're a loser. Once again, we don't call women, modern women, losers enough. You're a loser, dude. You really are.